December 24th, 2002, 5:45 p.m. Out to collect wood. Donner, the juvenile deer, stands in ankle-deep snow as he jots on a fresh page in his synthetic leather-bound journal. He is wearing a black trench coat, a pair of jeans, and a woolly maroon scarf, but it still isn't enough to keep him completely warm. Having completed his entry, he trudges off, carrying nothing but an empty barrel basket behind him, a hatchet hanging from his belt, and his savage MSR-10 rifle hanging in front, the one that grandfather gave him last winter, before he passed. Donner has been sent out by the village, along with a few others of his scout group of deer, for the daily inspection of territory outside their village, and to collect logs for the annual Antler Festival the next day. It has been a decade since demons last attacked their old town. Demons, meaning wolves. All the deer, along with other herbivores, had fled to and settled near the mountains, farther from any wolf and carnivore settlements than where they had previously lived. They still carried weapons, mostly rifles at all times. During that last wolf attack, most of those in town had not been prepared. After some time, Donner reaches the spot where the deer used to chop white bark wood during the summer. Brushing off the snow from one of the stumps like dust from old furniture, he sits to ease his aching legs. Sometimes, he wishes he had been born closer to the equator, so that he would not have to collect logs each day for warmth. But it is what it is. There are a few months left before spring comes. It would still be cold then, but not as much as now. When his strength returns, Donner gets up and collects wood, chopping the bigger pieces with his hatchet. When the basket is full, he leaves it behind and takes a stroll around the nearby frozen lake. Of course, he still carries his savage MSR-10, not necessarily because he is fearful of wolves, bears, or other carnivores that may be lurking nearby, even though there had been reports of sightings by the lookout team of squirrels. The rifle is just there because it has become a habit, as it is with all the deer in this village, as it is with other woodland folk. Arriving at the lake, Donner is met by a gust of cold winter wind. He shivers, then puts on his hood. It has openings so that his antlers do not get in the way. The gray skies, the snow-covered pine trees, and the icy gray lake remind him of the time when he and his sister attempted to play hockey. His sister helped him every time he fell. She was one of the best players of her hockey team. If only she were still alive to experience this view. Donner sighs as his stomach churns.
Time to head back.
As Donner is about to turn, he hears a faint whimpering somewhere in the bushes. Whimpers he could recognize as coming from a demon, a wolf.
Oh.
His fur thickens, his heart races, and out of instinct, he swings the rifle from his back to his front. Donner remembers the role given by Claus, the moose, the chief herbivore in his village.
If you ever hear the sound of a demon, find it and kill it.
Donner creeps toward the whimper, crouching behind the snow-covered bushes along the way. He spots a wolf pup, not yet in her teens, grimacing in pain. She wears an evergreen robe stained with blood on one foreleg.
Gotcha!
Donner lifts his MSR-10 and points it directly toward her head. His hoof slides through the trigger. If there's one thing that could bring lasting satisfaction to his life, it would be to hunt down the very species that had killed his sister a decade earlier.
I would gladly kill every last one of them,
he had vowed. And now, on this eve of Antler-Fest, he is about to make his first kill.
Anissa!
Calls a voice. Another wolf comes running up to this young one, wearing the same evergreen robe as her. He hugs her. The older one looks to be in his early adult years.
Oh, thank God I found you! What happened?
Run! Before he... Ow!
She groans as another pain seemed to hit her.
He? Who?
The older wolf struggles to make sense with her words.
There you are!
says a heavy voice as it huffs and puffs. Donner peeks through another gap in the bushes to see a deer, nose bloody red, wearing a trench coat and jeans like himself, and holding a Henry Model X rifle. It is Dolph, one of his scoutmates.
Please, I won't fish in your lake again, I promise.
Anissa whimpers as she clutches the older wolf's robe.
My family is starving and we are forbidden by our faith to eat meat. We just needed...
Well, you should have read the signs hanging around the forest that this is herbivore territory now. Demons like you shouldn't be here,
says Dolph.
She has dyslexia. She can't read.
The older wolf says in defense of the younger one.
We're sorry that we entered your territory. This won't happen again.
Oh, I'll make sure this never happens again.
Dolph wipes his bloody nose with his sleeve. He lifts the rifle and a shot rings out. Crimson blood splatters at Dolph's face, on the snow and on the tree trunks.
Anissa!
Screams the older wolf as he supports the lifeless pup with his arms.
Anissa! No! My little sister!
Bullets of memory shoot in Donner's mind. Memories of his sister crying for help as she was being mauled by a pack of wolves. Memories of him not knowing whether to fight or flee at that time. Memories of him crying over his sister's bones, all that was left by the wolves.
Let that be a lesson to you, your family, your kind, that you keep out of our territory. Our children have suffered enough from all of you.
Dolph drags his heavy boots away from the demons, as the older wolf lets out a scream so loud it pierces Donner's ears. Donner lowers his rifle and drops it on the ground. He sits there, looking blankly at the snow, as the sobs and whimpers of the older brother wolf echo around him. For years, he had seen wolves as these demonic beings that needed to be wiped out. Yet, here he is, just having witnessed the murder of a wolf's younger sibling. A murder which reminded him of the death of his own sister.
Are wolves and deer so different?
He shakes his head from such thoughts as he realizes that snow is beginning to fall. He must get back to the village. Donner sneaks away from the crying wolf, retrieves his basket full of logs, and runs back to the village as the sky turns dark. He arrives at the village gate, which is connected to a tall brick wall that surrounds the village. Entering it, he is welcomed by the warm light of holiday lanterns hanging from trees, the soothing strum of the guitar and singing, the aroma of burning wood from the chimneys of brick huts, and fawns giggling and laughing as they hit each other with snowballs. However, none of these things can steer his thoughts away from what he had witnessed back there in the forest. In the midst of holiday cheer, he stumbles quietly toward the center of the village, where a bonfire is being set up by beavers. He swings the basket to his front and puts it down to the moist earth.
Hey, Donner!
Calls someone. It's Vivian, the doe, his neighbor. She waves at Donner from a food stand of berries and nuts, but Donner raises his hoof and shakes his head. Now is not the time for him to be celebrating. Vivian notices the down look of his and nods, understanding. Donner then heads toward his shed, not far from the center of the village. Closing the door, he heaves a sigh. He takes off his coat and hangs it on a stand before crashing onto the bed. Holding his rifle close to his chest, he notices that, for the first time, he feels unsafe with it.
Are wolves what must be eradicated? Or should we be eradicating something deeper?
Donner recalls what the young wolf said.
My family is starving and we are forbidden by our faith to eat meat.
He remembers the way those two wolves were dressed, in evergreen robes, and what the young wolf said about them being forbidden to eat meat because of their faith. These things could only mean one thing. They're Symbites, or as carnivores would call them, fanatics. Members of a religion that is controversial amongst carnivores, a religion which precludes carnivores from the consumption of mammal meat. From what Donner had read about Symbites, they can still eat other forms of meat, like insects and fish, but it is considered sinful to indulge in the flesh of fellow mammals. The fact that there are wolves who do not eat meat is something Donner has never thought about deeply. It is easy to see all wolves as being the same. It's hard for him to even imagine a good wolf.
How could any carnivore be good? They're all demons, and they just need to be purged.
But what he had seen back in the forest tells him otherwise. He himself had almost killed innocent blood, just as the wolves had killed his innocent little sister. Donner almost became what he wanted to destroy. The quivering of their voices, their sobs, and the older brother's scream all came back to him now.
Wolves are not so different from deer. Deer and wolves both have families. They have feelings. They have beliefs. They both need to eat to live. The only differences are that wolves need to eat meat, and they're each built differently.
Long live the deer!
Donner could hear his neighbors cheering over the crackling and the smell of burning wood. Tambourines begin to jingle. Drums begin to beat. Then the whole village bursts into joyful songs of old victories against the wolves. Songs about how wolves and other carnivores are the devil's henchmen, and how they, the deer, are blessed by God with their guns and antlers in order to drive carnivores into extinction one day, to bring peace and love on earth, forever and ever. Amen.
Are we the prey?
Donner could hear Chief Claus shout,
No! We are hunters!
says the rest.
That's it!
Donner gets up from bed, puts on his backpack and coat, and takes his rifle, and lights a lantern as he heads toward one edge of the village, where bear traps and tear gas and other weapons are being kept. In the storage shed there, the one where bait is being kept to capture carnivore intruders, he opens the chest and takes out 3 sacks to put in his backpack. He runs from the village as polar lights slither across the night sky. He eventually reaches the place where the wolf pup, no, where Anissa was shot. But there is no sign of the body, nor her brother. But there are paw prints. The deer struggles to move quickly in the deep snow as he follows the prints toward the edge of the herbivore territory. He is careful not to fall into the traps set by deer for intruding carnivores. There are tons of them. Some carnivores had even fallen into them as well. There is a carcass, presumably from a fox, that is hanging upside down on a rope tied to a tree. A few yards away, a carcass of a grizzly bear can hardly be seen, with its left forearm caught by one of the bear traps. Traveling a bit further, Donner is trudging on the guts of some mammal that may have stepped on a mine, because not too far from the guts is a crater. It bothers him venturing out this far. The rotting smell, the traps, the carcasses, they all reminded him of his sister's death, his hatred for carnivores, and his attempted murder. Donner halts as a wave of nausea gets him. His stomach contracts and vomits. His eyes tear up, partially from the vomiting, and partially due to the guilt he feels. He passes through the herbivore territory, and not too far, he sees the Symbite wolf brother digging a grave for his sister. There are 2 other robed wolves standing with him. Each of them holds a lantern. They must be Anissa's parents. Donner's lantern squeals from the gust of wind, and this catches the attention of the 3 wolves. Donner can see the brother wolf's eyes grow wide as he points his shovel fearfully toward the deer. His parents slowly back off, telling the brother wolf to watch out. Donner trudges toward them and lifts the rifle from his chest, then stops.
This ends now.
The deer cracks the rifle apart and throws it onto the ground, hard. He stomps it with his combat boots, again and again and again. Tears begin to fall from his eyes, dropping on the broken Savage MSR-10. He takes off his bag and puts it in front of them as he goes down on his knees and bows with remorse. Donner chokes.
This should feed you and your family for a few more days. I was behind the bush when your sister was shot. I had been planning to shoot her myself until you arrived. But when your sister was shot by my neighbor, it reminded me of my own sister. who was mauled by a pack of wolves. Since her death, I've felt nothing but hatred for your species. I vowed to exterminate all of you. But today, seeing the two of you, caring deeply for each other, for your family, I couldn't help but feel wrong about the way I viewed all of you. Even though I wasn't the one who shot your little sister, I could have been. And I want to compensate in a little way by giving you this.
The wolf approaches the bag hesitantly and inspects it. It is full of salmon chops. He looks at Donner, shocked, then turns at the bag. He shakes his head and takes a glance at his lifeless sister. Then the wolf turns his back on the deer and walks a few steps away as he sighs.
I know.
Donner began.
What we did is unforgivable. We deserve your hatred. What your species did to us will never make what we did right.
Donner rises and takes out a bottle of holy scented oil that he had removed from the storage room. He pours it over the lifeless Anissa.
In herbivore circles, it is a mortal sin to use this oil for a carnivore burial.
But Donner doesn't care. He places the lantern near the dead wolf's head and prays a short prayer for her.
Before I became a Symbite,
Began the older wolf.
before my mother, my father, and my sister became Symbites, we used to pray and hunt too. In fact, we enjoyed every bit of it. So we also deserve your hatred. We came to see how much our indulgence had affected all of you.
The wolf turns, kneels down, puts his furry paw on the deer's shoulder.
No worries, my brother. No worries. God has forgiven us all.
The change was quick, but not surprising. Not only does this wolf foreign religion forbid the consumption of mammal meat, it teaches pacifism and forgiveness as well.
I need more than forgiveness.
The deer responds, looking up to the wolf as a tear drops from his cheek.
I want to change. I want to make up for my hatred. My hatred that I had for you wolves, for your kind, for the lust that I had for your blood. I want to...
Donner breaks down again on the painfully icy ground. He can feel the wolf wrapping his arms around him, giving him a bit of warmth in an unbearably bitter environment.
And you did.
The wolf whispers.
And you did.